I'm breathing underwater, I'm weightless through space. I'm soaring like an eagle all over this place. Creatures most will never see are waiting there to look at me, and all I gotta do is breathe underwater. In the far-off year 1974, Chinese people exist. Unfortunately, somebody thinks their music hasn't progressed beyond 1374.
This weapon is a high-velocity hypospray capable of injecting a liquid into a human body through clothing and skin without the slightest sensation whatever. May I demonstrate? Did you feel anything?
Nothing.
Yet you were injected with 2 milliliters of distilled water. Harmless, of course.
Remarkable.
So it makes a nice assassination device. Shall I guess who the target is?
When the distilled water is combined with unstable cesium and injected into a human body, it will turn it into a living bomb. This cartridge contains a minute fraction of cesium, but it will serve as a demonstration.
The idea is if a person injected with this cesium gets too close to something radioactive, like say a nuclear power plant, they explode and take the power plant with them. So they can hit some poor grunt worker with this stuff, and when he goes to work, kaboom. As if his job wasn't hard enough.
We have devised a plan that would cause the Americans to send a top agent into a most sensitive area of the Soviet Union. Of course, somewhere along the way, he will have been injected with the cesium solution.
And that agent becomes your bomb.
An American agent blows up a Soviet nuclear something. If this nuclear project is a threat to China, why don't they use their own agent?
It will trigger the regrettable but necessary war between your country and the United States, from which we will emerge the rulers of the world.
Is rulers of a nuclear wasteland really a goal worth pursuing? Plus, enough fallout will land on China that within 3 generations they'll have 2 noses and walk on all 4s. Admiral Nelson is heading to Washington for an emergency meeting, and we get our first look at the Seaview's newest edition. That is the most amazing gaming setup you'll ever see.
Launch.
The flying sub. Yeah, I know, but remember, we're in 1965. This takes place in the distant future of 1974. Who knows what we could develop in that time? I'm not being facetious. We really thought like that. Technology was on the move, and we expected the flying cars any day. Seriously, any day now. Still waiting, techies. Hello?
Nelson Institute to Seaview. Do you read me? Over.
Read you? I can almost touch you.
Will you scramble, please?
It's no fun scrambling alone.
Today we call that sexual harassment. Katie is the Admiral's secretary, although the last time we saw Susan Flannery, she was his sister, sort of. Apparently, she did a good enough job of posing as his sister that the Admiral put her on his staff. I don't actually know if that's the case, but it would make sense. It would also mean she's more than a typewriter jockey. She's a trained and experienced agent.
Katie, the Admiral's been called to Washington. It's very urgent. Now, he wants you to have the following there ahead of him by microfilm relay.
Ready.
Sheets 21, 27, 102 and 105 through 181, all in series 8000.
Got it.
Send it on to Naval Intelligence Attention, Vice Admiral Johnson.
After this project, Vice Admiral Johnson retired from the Navy, changed his name first to John Zaremba and then to Raymond Swain, and got a doctorate in theoretical physics. He managed to get himself assigned to a secret project in the desert that almost nobody knew about, and most wouldn't have believed if they did.
One of our top people inside the Soviet Union has word that the Russians are experimenting with a subsurface nuclear device that'll top anything in the world.
Oh, they've tried that before.
No, not like this. Its potential is in excess of 200 megatons. Self-activating, multidirectional. They just put one of these on the bottom of each ocean and they own the world.
Yeah, that would give them the ability to hold the world hostage and make everyone do whatever they want them to. Like eat borscht. Yeah. We find our top agent at the Trianon Gallery exhibiting her paintings.
I'm happy to meet you.
My privilege.
Are you enjoying the paintings, Admiral?
Very much. I must say I don't always understand them.
One does not try to understand. One merely feels, reacts. Here, let me show you something.
Poor Admiral Nelson has to go on a mission with her. Such a burden, but someone's got to do it. I talked about Ina Balin when she appeared in The Invisible Man, episode 12, if you're interested.
I have managed to work a map into this painting. It is the best I can do until you get to my studio in Gorov. You will be there during the annual hydrojet races. Somehow we will use the races to cover your moves.
I think the Admiral is thinking about some different moves, but he'll force himself to concentrate on what she's telling him. Later, Johnson is giving him what he'll need for the assignment, starting with identity papers. He's supposed to be a Soviet sailor on a 72-hour leave, but no Soviet sailor ever had gear like this.
We've established that this brand is a favorite with the Soviet Navy. Now, these are 6 normal cigarettes, and these 4 on this side are identical to the other, only in appearance. Actually, each one of these is a tiny oxygen cylinder with 2 minutes of oxygen in each, under tremendous pressure, of course.
They attach to a fake matchbox that he calls a rebreather. The entrance into the nuclear plant will be through a big pipe they use to draw in seawater for cooling stuff. Hence the makeshift scuba rig.
This is a genuine Soviet timepiece. Common and inexpensive, and it actually tells time. However, we've rebuilt it slightly. The movement has been replaced by a super-thin unit, powered by a micro-energizer. The remaining space has been used to accommodate 3 lethal darts, propelled by tiny high-pressure gas units.
Since it's a timepiece, you arm the darts by whispering, "Time's up," into the holes.
Now, it's on safety until you give it the quarter turn. And you fire it by depressing the winder. I'll show you.
It makes the same sound as the average television silenced pistol. What a coincidence.
Bang, bang, you're dead, mister, you're dead.
Somebody called Child Protective Services. That kid has been through some stuff. The sea view is at the mouth of the Black Sea, which is basically Soviet territory. Dirty, rotten, capitalist Americans stay out. There's a tense moment when a pair of Soviet destroyers go moseying over the top of them, but they remain undetected. The flying sub will take it from here. This is still some of the most convincing model work you'll ever see. And this time I can't even complain about the backdrop because we're looking up toward the sky where there's a whole lot of nothing. The flying sub itself became the butt of hundreds of jokes, but I found it believable when I was 12. Now, having been a scuba diver for over 12 years and knowing a lot more about water dynamics, I still find it believable. Its propulsion units make sense for both water and air. Its shape is nice and sleek so it can slice through the water easily, but it also gives it wings that provide lift in the air. I assume the wings have movable flaps of some kind to handle aerodynamic matters. As for how it makes the transition from water to air, it does it like this. When a submarine fires a ballistic missile, a charge of compressed air shoots it up to the surface where the rocket engines ignite and send it flying through the air. I see no reason why the flying sub doesn't use the same mechanism. Once they're airborne, Crane will skim the surface of the water so they aren't picked up by radar or sonar. When they reach land, he ascends to 11,000 feet so the Admiral can parachute to his destination. That's one thing we don't know about the flying sub yet. Does it have landing gear?
Identity papers. Your papers.
By the way, he's pretending to be drunk.
What are you doing in the streets at this hour? Where are you going?
To Gurov.
What will we do with a drunken sailor?
That's what they're wondering. He's a long way from Gurov.
Get into the car. Get in. We'll take you to the Army motor pool. They'll give you a lift to Gurov.
That's what we do with a drunken sailor.
By the way, remember that kid that I said had been through some stuff? He's not done going through stuff.
We waited outside this building until he came out. I then injected him with the hypo spray. 2 days after I completed my assignment on Admiral Nelson, you picked me up.
Get him out of here.
Such as an interrogation involving certain chemicals that tend to loosen the tongue. They have to stop Admiral Nelson. That means sending a message to Lichka. He's on his way here so she can just show him the message. Or she can pretend she never got it and let him blow himself up. That's right. America's top agent in the Soviet Union is a spy for China. Different services, but same motherland, same mission, same level of blood alcohol.
No, this is where I live.
Oh, you mean this is where your girl lives, huh? Oh, come on, let's have a party.
No. Wait. Go.
We'll have a party tomorrow. Tomorrow, right?
Alexei!
Alexia, have a good lead. Come on.
He already is.
Your two companions provided you with excellent cover, Alexei.
Well, you were pretty convincing yourself. I wish I were just a sailor on leave.
She's smart, beautiful, and apparently an excellent kisser. You can't blame the Admiral Nelson for being a little smitten. She fixes some food and wine, and then they settle in to talk.
The hydrojet races will be in 2 days. All the arrangements have been made. But for
Or maybe talk can wait. I have a feeling it's been a long time since a woman looked at him like that. And since they're on the same side...
Let us forget our duty.
Since they're on the same side, why not practice a little international cooperation? Later, he's sleeping on the couch, which left me scratching my head. Maybe she only has a single wide bed. In any case, while he's sleeping, she tests him with a Geiger counter. He's radioactive enough to light up the room when he takes his clothes off.
Litchka claims Nelson never reached her. That means either he was picked up by the secret police or for some reason he couldn't contact her.
Oh, they made plenty of contact, but you don't need to know that.
Isn't there a third possibility? Litchka might be a double agent.
Then she wouldn't have told Nelson the mission was aborted.
She didn't. She said he never contacted her, so she didn't tell him anything.
And just one thing we can be sure of. Someone's got to get to Nelson before he gets close enough to that reactor to activate the cesium in his bloodstream. We need someone he knows and who knows him.
Gee, I wonder who that could be. He only has one friend.
We've made arrangements for you to cover the Gorov hydrojet races as a photographer for Picture World magazine.
Well, I'm a pretty fair amateur photographer, but I don't know if I can pull it off.
Your caption writer will brief you. She's on her way.
His caption writer is Katie. Crane is delighted that she'll have his back.
Will you put the equipment and the cases on the table and open them, Francis?
No, Sharky. Everybody calls me Sharky.
Thank you, Sharky.
You're welcome.
Sharky prefers her front. The camera equipment isn't exactly top of the line. It's way beyond that.
This box you're to keep with you at all times. It contains cameras, film, and an exposure meter. Inside the gadget box, a small flash unit. This film we use for taking pictures. The other side contains boxes which look like film, but are actually smoke bombs. They're detonated by pressing this spot.
This one right here? Psh, oops.
Inside the handle of the flash unit are masks and breathing units, which we can also use underwater.
I'm sure those will come in handy at some point. Just like James Bond with Q's gadgets, you don't get the thing if there isn't going to be a place to use it.
Lee, our orders are to stop the Admiral from reaching that reactor room, whatever the cost.
That sounds ominous, but considering the goal is to prevent a global war, it makes sense that everybody has to play for keeps.
This lens mount is actually a high-powered rifle, accurate to within 500 yards. If we can't get close enough to give him the antidote, then your orders are to kill him.
That immediately raises the question, if it's necessary, can he do it? Can he put aside a friendship that's even stronger than brotherhood, forged in the fires of everything they've been through, and kill the Admiral? And considering such a crucial question, is he really the right one for this job?
Tomorrow morning at dawn, you will report to Vasily Karmov, who is driving the Yugoslavian entry. Just before the race, you will take his place. Sometime during the race, you will deliberately roll the boat over, right here, about 100 yards from the experimental station.
It'll be a lot of fun at 200 miles an hour.
You must do it in such a way that you will not be hurt.
Oh, thanks for that advice. He was going to let it kill him. Any suggestions how?
Underwater, you will swim to this spot. There, 20 feet beneath the surface, you will find the intake pipe that leads to the reservoir from which water is pumped to cool the reactor.
Are there any sharp bends or obstructions in the pipe?
No. When you have reached the reservoir, you will swim to this point.
All this is assuming he doesn't become fish food when the boat crashes. And if he does, you can bet that eating radioactive Black Sea fish will become the next TikTok challenge.
That is the entrance to the reactor. There will be a guard in front of the door. Once you have disposed of him, you will go through the door into the reactor room. Then when you have found out what you need to know, you will retrace your steps and return here.
Everything's cool except that last part, because if all goes according to her plan, he won't be coming out. Nobody will. Captain Crane and Katie have arrived at Litchka's apartment. presumably she's not fleeing or something like that. She's a famous artist and she travels a lot, exhibiting her material all over the world. Nice cover if you have the talent. I never had that kind of talent, but nobody ever asked me to be a spy either.
Comrade Litchka,
Go away, I am busy.
I have to talk to you.
No visitors today. I'm painting.
I'm a friend of the Admiral's.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm from Tryon Galleries.
Come in. Come in.
She's sticking with her story that she never heard from the Admiral. The secret police must have picked him up, but there's no way to find out for sure.
I understand. You are naturally worried about Admiral Nelson. What will you do now?
We're going to the hydrojet races. If the Admiral is there, we've got to get to him before he starts with the experimental station.
He could not be. How could he be without having contacted me? Who would have made the arrangements for him?
He's a very resourceful man. Goodbye.
Katie is very good. Let's step outside and listen.
This is Comrade Litchka. 2 American spies, a man and a woman, will be at the boat races today. The man is tall, wearing a brown corduroy jacket, carrying a camera.
Why don't we invite Comrade Litchka to attend the races with us,
I'm sure she'd be delighted.
Now let's step back inside and let her know we heard that. And by the way, Litchka was fleeing, at least far enough to be out of the blast radius. The key word there is was. We'll see lots of stock footage of boat races with cut-ins of Nelson driving his boat, and it's well done. The stock footage isn't overused and the cuts are smooth and, most of all, relevant. They pull us into the moment as Admiral Nelson struggles to keep his craft under control while the other boats are doing the same thing. But I don't think Litchka is enjoying the race.
Please let me go. I have told you Nelson is not here. You have looked everywhere. I am not lying.
And there's nothing to worry about. Just relax and enjoy the race.
Nobody's letting her go anywhere. She's a double agent and she's pretty much under arrest. She's most likely going to spend the rest of her life in a federal prison, assuming she survives the next hour. And by the way, when a TV character, especially a villain, says, "I'm not lying," you can... yeah, you know.
I think it's him. It is him. I'll have to shoot him.
No, you won't. Shoot the engine.
There's too much movement.
Shoot. Kill him. If he gets in there, the explosion will kill us all.
One more move like that, and you won't have to wait for an explosion.
Shoot the boat engine. Disable it. Not only does it keep the Admiral alive, it's a bigger target. Shoot it.
I can't do it. There's got to be another way.
I told you what it is twice already. Shoot the engine. Stop the boat.
We've got to stop him. Let's get out of here.
You will never make it. Well, you better not try and signal anyone. Let's go.
Or you can stand there and watch him do that. They know where he's headed, so they have to get there first. If nothing else, Litchka will have a ringside seat to see her mission get accomplished. I'm sure that makes her feel better.
What happened to the other driver?
Oh, he was taken ill, sir. I was called to fill in for him.
Well, I have to get another camera out of the trunk.
That's the same goofy smile he used when he was brainwashed. He needs to stop trying to do fake smiles. He's really bad at it.
Would you get that case, please?
That one, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Bad form, Captain. Everybody knows that you put him in the trunk to make sure he stays quiet. Litchka says we'll never get into the power station. There are guards all over the place. But there's one advantage to that. The guards are all men. The guards are all apparently very lonely men. She's really making full use of her equipment. A few more waggles like that and one of the guards can't stand it. He has to go over to help. She's working it well enough that the other guard hasn't noticed that his buddy isn't moving, but she needs to get him good and distracted too. This calls for her secret weapon. Her secret weapon is a pair of nylons and a pair of legs to put in them. When she was in high school, all the boys said she was a knockout. Captain Crane puts on the guard's uniform, and after taking care of another guard, he takes position at the entrance to the reactor room. Lee, I suggest you turn around where he can see your face. Never mind, looks like Vice Admiral Johnson forgot to reload it after his demonstration. Now, aren't you glad that watch wasn't loaded? Crane explains about the cesium, Lichka, and all the rest.
I have the antidote. It'll neutralize the cesium instantly.
Get on with it. I still want to see what's inside that room.
You know what's in that room? Nothing much. A couple of small reactors, little experimental stuff. If one of them exploded in your head, it might not have enough power to tip your hat. Lichka and her handlers made the whole thing up to try and start a war. But the guard that Lee undressed has been found, and the alarm is sounding. Here come the soldiers.
So who's minding the Institute?
He was close to giving his heart to her. Even someone as experienced as Admiral Nelson can fall for the honeypot trap. I suppose one could be cynical and say at least he got to, but I doubt he'd agree. The fact that he gave her that much of himself makes the betrayal sting a lot worse.
Katie, the rebreathers.
Nelson!
Admiral! We've only got 3 masks! Come on!
He knows what's going to happen to her, but he's going to have to decide if he can overlook her lies and try to find a way to save her life. That pretty well settles it. She watches them dive into the water and disappear. She might do well to do that herself. Drowning could be a lot easier than what her handlers are going to have in mind. Chip has the flying sub standing by not far offshore. He collects our 3 swimmers and heads back to the Seaview. Lichka stands there surrounded by angry soldiers and contemplates the folly of poor choices. They almost look alive, don't they? Like a mother gathering her young.
Lee, when you get changed, come down to my cabin.
Yes, sir, with pleasure.
I want to tell you a story about a broken watch crystal that saved your life.
Okay, his story is it broke in the boat crash. I like mine better. Johnson forgot to reload it. It's a lot more military. The flying sub will be a big part of this season, and I don't care what the critics said. I thought it was cool. I already explained why I found and still find it believable, but more important, it replaces the mini-sub from the first season. That's a very good thing because as best I can remember, they lost every mini-sub they ever sent out. At least this thing comes back in one piece. That's something new. I'm breathing underwater, I'm weightless through space. I'm soaring like an eagle all over this place. Creatures most will never see are waiting there to look at me, and all I gotta do is breathe underwater. With his assignment for the assignment. Flaps to the camera exactly.